Hi guys, welcome to the first video in a series that I'm doing that explores mind manipulation and the inception of ideas. Before we get started, I'd like to mention a quick note that I'll be putting at the beginning of every one of my videos. Sometimes I tend to speak quickly, and oftentimes that means that you don't get a chance to read everything on the slide. But don't worry, because I designed these presentations so that you don't ever have to. But if you're just thorough like that, then feel free to pause the video at any point and catch up on any and everything there. And one more thing. Don't worry at all if you aren't familiar with the text being analyzed. If there's something you need to know, I'll let you know. Now let's get started. Today, we'll be looking at George Orwell's Animal Farm. Animal Farm is both simple and complex. Orwell manages to condense an era of Russian communism into a mere 140-some pages and allegorically represent that communism through simplistic animal figures. He also manages to establish a passionate emotional connection to the readers by building his almost fairy tale characters with complex human emotions. In turn, we grow to care for the animals ourselves and are molded by their actions and reactions, eventually fueling a rabid hatred towards communism. But how does Orwell do this? How does Orwell plant a hatred for communism in our minds? I'm going to explore what I believe to be the most impactful scene in the novel and a few of the preceding and following events for you today to demonstrate Orwell's masterful ability to manipulate us. We begin before the scene with a few easily understood historical references. All in the same group of passages, words like pensions and retired make us feel secure, but words like rations, reduced, a too rigid equality, necessary, readjustment, and reduction make us feel hopeless and deprived. And finally again, words like comparison and improvement, in the context that they are used, mask the negative connotations we just experienced, but they do not dissipate them. To add on to this historical background, Orwell references the Soviet myth he talks about in one of his prefaces to Animal Farm, when in April, Animal Farm was proclaimed a republic, and it became necessary to elect a president. There was only one candidate, Napoleon, who was elected unanimously. Any rational mind would deem this unjust, and so we associate it as just that. In addition, Orwell includes contradictions to the hopeless negativity that convince the animals that everything is all right, but certainly does not slip past us. We recognize that everything is not better than it was in the old days, nor are days more dignified, nor is the work the animals do to their benefit by any stretch. These are meant only to begin to poke at our emotions as we watch innocent animals be manipulated by a dictator and by a writer. Beginning to approach the scene, Orwell really toys with our emotions and our hopes. Positive statements like, "Boxer never faltered," are immediately followed by far darker statements that not only demolish the positivity, but instill doubt in our minds and our hearts. The overall sense we get is worse than negativity alone. We experience glimmers of hope, and are crushed by hope's demise as the beloved Boxer, a hard-working, never-before-faltering civil servant, begins to fade away. To turn into excitement as the novel's dullest character shows excitement for the first time. Our spirits are yet again lifted, and at this point, with all the hope and all the sorrow we've experienced, we are ready for the scene at last. For those of you who don't know Animal Farm, this is the part in the book where Boxer, the animal we've grown to love, is carried off to his demise in front of the animals. The sheer cruelty of a horse-drawn van meant to carry horses to the slaughterhouse astounds us. The inhumanity, in the animal sense of the word, not the human one, leaves us in a deadly silence. Words like horror, uncertain, and disappeared leave us on the edge of our seats in suspension. Words like death, died, and desperation prime us for a dark and gloomy result. Words and phrases like whipped, crying out, uproar, and a tremendous drumming subconsciously prepare us for a rebellion before we even know what we're rebelling against. All of these words are weaved into the same scene and focus around the punchline, just as Clover tried to stout her limbs to a gallop and only achieved a canter, which is of course a medium between a trot and a gallop, never actually achieving a gallop. Boxer's attempts to break out of the van fail, and our attempts to make the animals realize what horror is going on in front of their ignorant eyes fail as well. We are stripped of everything, all our hopes, all our happiness, and are left with only the line, Boxer was never seen again. But if you think that Orwell is finished tormenting you, think again. Shortly after, the pigs attempt and succeed in convincing the animals that Boxer's slaughter was actually a peaceful and just death for the old horse. Squealer paints a story, controls the narrative when rumors arise, and forces relief into the minds of the animals. The part of the scene I want you to focus on is the relief. And really more specifically, the relief the animals get from hearing that Boxer died happy. This leads the animals to believe that everything is all good. But after the scene we just experienced, there's no way in hell we're going to buy into Squealer's folly stories. But can we blame the pigs, really? No. We aren't mad at them. We're mad at the system, the abuse of power, the existence of this myth in the real world. We are left with no desire greater than to seek retribution in any way we can. It's important to understand that this scene, this novel, did not start a revolution. Rather, words like communism and socialism, the systems that deprived us of our hopes and our sanity, became one-word representations of the feeling we got as we experienced Boxer's death. That feeling left a scar in our hearts and our minds and led us to detest communism with everything we've got. Thanks, and see you next time.